I'm going to share with you the exact ways I learn complex information even while extremely distracted.
The dude did what? Look, I'm trying to study Hollins versus Fowler 1875 here and commit it to memory while editing a video, while finishing my next book. I can't, well, actually, maybe I can handle this. Hold on, I'll call you back.
These techniques allow me to spend minimal time and get maximum results studying because minimal time is all that I've got. And frankly, as a person with so many interests and already so many degrees under my belt, minimal time is all I've ever had. So you don't want to miss this because I'm going to give you an AI prompt later that I created for myself to help me make even more of my time useful and impactful, and it works. But today's tutorial not only gives you an opportunity to get the prompt, but more importantly, you get the AIM formula that the AI prompt is designed to help you master, including examples from excruciatingly difficult topics that I've been studying, from the law to language learning and anatomy. And at my age, it is getting tougher, I have to say. And I have to now spend more time learning from digital screens, which challenges me. And that's why I need what I am using. And it is working really, really great. And it's going to help you too. So let's get into the AIM formula, because I've been using it for years with physical books, and it's so amazing, and I'm delighted that it also helps me navigate the most hectic period of my life where I'm forced to study online. Maybe you can relate. The times are strange. Now, the A in AIM is for active recall, an activity that creates deeper cognitive processing because it challenges your brain. It's not going to feel comfortable necessarily, but properly used, active recall can fairly be called the ultimate study cheat code because it feels like a challenge. And it's not about shoving information into your brain, it's the opposite. It's a strategy for essentially pulling information out in ways that form memories faster. Now the problem is that many people try to use it only in bits and pieces and not in combination with the rest of the AIM formula. So use it in the ways that I'm about to show you as we build and build and build. And listen, the examples I'm going to give you today, if they don't apply to you, just try to imagine how you might apply the techniques to whatever it is that you want to learn. Because at the end of the day, the techniques have nothing to do with the information itself, but we do need some examples. And I've chosen ones that I find super fascinating, such as the law, which is why I'm now studying it formally at university. Law requires memorizing massive amounts of dense information and applying it to messy scenarios, very messy scenarios. So passive studying and rote learning isn't going to work. But active recall forces the brain to play both lawyer and judge. So the first step is what I come to think of as the closed case brief. So you read a statute or a case or act once, and then what you do is you ask your brain to recall it without looking at the information in writing. So what I looked at today was Briginshaw v. Briginshaw, and it has to do with the balance of probabilities. And so by challenging myself to reproduce that from memory after reading, that helps learn it faster. Now, I find the language of the law hard to understand, so I don't worry about whether I understand it yet or not. I just read and then follow this procedure. Remove myself from the digital environment, go for a walk with a notebook, or you place yourself in a digital-free room, hide under blankets if that's what it takes, and have a blank piece of paper and force yourself to write down whatever facts or issues or applications of a law or reasoning and conclusion or whatever formula that you're studying, and do it entirely from memory. Don't worry about making mistakes. Once that you're done, jot down anything else you can remember from what you've been studying that day and start asking questions and making connections that personalize and dimensionalize what you think you remember. Then the second step is to take a quick break and stretch and get out a red pen. Now here's where you open the source you were studying from, and in my case it's online screens, and I use a little red pen to fill in whatever details, nuances, or elements that I didn't think. And then I go to the AIM AI to spar a little bit and help me make more notes that I think are really, really helpful, and they apply to any topic that you want to study. And this is going to help you understand where your brain has failed and where you need to fill in the gaps. It is so good. But do the actual work first of writing out by hand what it is that you think you remembered from what you studied. Then the next step is, after you do your sparring with the AIM AI, go back and change some parts of the case. So, if it's law, if the defendant had done Y instead of X, would the ruling still hold? And so answering such questions without looking at the answers or notes or whatever is going to help you incredibly form memories. And it's just a little deeper than how active recall is standardly taught. Now, if you know how to use memory wheels as part of your questioning process, well, that's very powerful too. But if you don't, bookmark this tutorial so you can come back and get my link to my videos on memory wheels down in the discussion area and the description below. Then what you do is you keep giving yourself this conversation with the AI and using your red pen to give yourself some tough love about what you're missing. Now, that's the A of AIM. The I is interleaving. And our next example moves from the law to language learning. Not that the law is free from language learning. It's got Latin like crazy. But here's something else that really matters a great deal. If you find this kind of tutorial about principles like active learning and what we'll talk about now with interleaving useful, if you're new here, get subscribed and join us to learn more and more about how to learn. And for the love of memory, help me help all of us preserve our minds and our active recall abilities by smashing that thumbs up so loud the robots can't ignore it. Okay, so the I in AIM is interleaving. Let's use an example that just is generic because everybody has learning a language on their bucket list. And back when I was a university student the first time around and teaching later as a professor, having skills in other languages was a requirement. But when I started, I didn't know what I'm about to teach you right now. So let me urge you to keep paying attention, because if you've ever studied a language and couldn't understand why after spending years of serious time at it, it still didn't work, you're not alone, and we're going to solve the problem of not being able to learn a language. And it's all thanks to interleaving. So interleaving is a big topic, but to keep it simple, it's basically the exact opposite of block studying or time blocking. Instead of practicing one skill or topic over an entire hour, like past tense verbs over and over and over again, or reviewing food vocabulary, which is kind of a snore fest for me, but anyway, I've had to do it. What interleaving involves is mixing up unrelated topic and skills in a single study session. So if block studying is like listening to the same song on repeat for hours, which gets boring really, really fast and forces your brain to tune out, interleaving is constantly putting your brain on notice that something is about to shuffle. And this keeps your cognitive gears guessing, which seems weird, but it actually helps your brain remember information much, much better. And so it's partly because it creates what's called diffuse thinking, I believe. And that's kind of allowing your brain to percolate. You're focused on one thing, you take the pressure off, and then you go focus on something else. And then all the little coins just kind of percolate through down into the treasure chest of knowledge, right? So interleaving in language is a great way to start learning interleaving, because there are 5 pillars of language learning, and you can move between them very, very readily. So they are reading, writing, speaking, listening, and memorizing. And just to give you some examples of what it might look like, first you could bring together you could bring together note-taking for language learning with listening and reading at the same time. So instead of silently staring at vocabulary flashcards, listen to an interview or listen to a short story or just a movie, and then extract onto index cards 5 to 10 vocabulary words or phrases that are really interesting to you. You may need to look them up with a dictionary, but these days tons of material with subtitles exist that allows you to do reading and listening and then take notes to do the writing part all at the same time. You're still going to interleave, but man, I wish that when I was first learning German, I had all that we have now on the internet. What I had was DVDs with Hamlet, where you could turn on the German subtitles. But that's what I did. I would watch Hamlet in German and then write down all these cool words. And so this is what I want to do. Or King Lear, aus nichts kann nichts entspringen. Like, this is what I would memorize from the screen. And when you're doing this, don't worry that the language has zillions of words, or don't let the little monkey mind tell you how hard it is and all that stuff, or boring or whatever. Just focus on the task at hand, but only spend 5 to 10 minutes at it. Then take a break to do something else. Now, if you're studying another topic, go and do that for a few minutes. Then come back, review the cards that you just wrote from the subtitles on the video, let's say, and then review those cards for 10 minutes or so. Take another break, and then maybe go back and listen to an audio source or watch a movie again for a couple of minutes, and then add in some active recall. So you're not looking at the cards, you're not looking at the transcript or the subtitles on the screen. You go into a different room with a physical notepad, and you write out what you just heard entirely from memory to the best of your ability. And when I do this in languages that I've learned, which is now involving a lot of legal Latin, I don't worry too much about spelling. When I was studying Mandarin, I didn't worry about spelling at all. Now, some people didn't like that I did this, but I just made up my own opinion so I could keep moving. And I remember memorizing this song, Ni wen wo ai ni yo duo shen. Oh, I'm sorry. I told you that I find some of today's examples fascinating, but I should have asked permission before I made you listen to me sing. The point is that I wrote out what I was memorizing from the lyrics that appeared on the screen from the song, and then I just memorized more and wrote it out from memory, and as a result, I've never really forgotten it. Even though I only sing it now once in a blue moon, I can get through most of that song with the words intact. And then I also did this same process when I was studying Mandarin for a level 3 course, and I passed that class. Now, there's other aspects to language learning, but keep in mind you're not going to stick with language learning. You're going to occasionally go and do something else. Pick up a book of philosophy for 5-10 minutes or whatnot before you come back. And this is very, very, very powerful. And you can do it randomly, or you can do it in a more structured way. So what I used to do in university is more of let's say I have 3 topics. I would go from topic A to B to C on Monday, for example, and then on Tuesday I would go from B to A to C, and then on Wednesday I would go C, B, A, and just rotate in that way. So I'm not hitting the same topics always in the same order, because that creates patterns that causes your brain to snooze, right? And then throw in wild cards. Like I love to spend a little bit of time memorizing crazy poems, like Awkward Grammar, Appalls the Craftsman, Dada Bars, Davizara, Damn Stagnant Art, and Scrawlton Alpha. What a scandal. Like it's just no use to my studying. Well, actually it is useful to my studying, but the point is that it gives my brain a break, but then I just randomly throw it in, so I'm never falling into patterns. Now, speaking of rattling off poems like that, which sound like a foreign language, even though it's English, speaking practice in foreign language learning is one of the most difficult things. It's very tricky, but you truly can keep it simple. So what you do is you are not looking at your index cards where you've made notes. You're not looking at a book or information on a screen in transcripts or subtitles. You just turn on your phone and you give yourself 60 seconds or so to just speak out loud based on what you've just learned. And if you have a tutor, you can send them that file for review, and maybe they send you a message back immediately, or you talk about it during your next session. But by focusing your brain to then go from using your hands, using your eyes, using your ears, and then using your mouth, you're switching between comprehending input, which is reading and listening, to producing, which is writing and now speaking. And this is very, very powerful. And if you do memorize poems or songs like I do, you can double dip, so to speak. I won't sing anymore, but there's German songs that I learned while I was learning German that helped me massively. And I was technically not taking a break, but taking a break at the same time. And it's just amazing. Now, it does put a little bit of mental strain on your brain, but that's the feeling of your brain building better neural pathways, but neural pathways that you're deliberately making stronger by interrupting yourself a little bit. Now, why would that be useful? Well, it helps you avoid a problem called the illusion of competence. This is a problem where you overestimate your knowledge or mastery of a skill or how much you're getting it because you feel like you're doing something. But basically, usually, if the information feels easy to process while you're learning it, your brain is probably making a mistake. Your brain loves experiencing the illusion of short-term wins. But if you're not challenging by either switching topics or using active recall to test yourself, you're not going to prevent yourself from falling into the pattern of mindlessly repeating the same way you're studying all the time. So that's interleaving in a nutshell, with some twists that I've added from my own experience that I found really useful. Now, the M of AIM is mnemonics, and there are countless ways to use mnemonics, including with the AIM AI, but still, we need to understand the principle. And I'll use different mnemonic strategies depending on what I'm doing, but you know what? I don't always start with mnemonics first. Usually I take notes first, then I memorize the notes as one of my activities that I interleave into my other study patterns. Otherwise, starting with mnemonics can be more like MIA, missing in action, because you need the material to be something you've collected yourself, and that level of processing through active recall, through interleaving, through note-taking sets the stage for memory techniques and mnemonics to work so much better. So let me take a very simple example of anatomy using a combination of mnemonic peg words and the memory palace technique, and using the hand as a memory palace, or better said, the wrist. Anyway, to give you a specific example of what I used on the scaphoid bone, which is also called the navicular, it's one of the carpal bones, and I used Scarlett Johansson, the actress, climbing a scaffold up the thumb. Now that image is happening right on my hands, so that's why I can look there or just imagine my way there and recall what that was, and elaborate it a little bit using what are called the magnetic modes in the Magnetic Memory Method Masterclass. So you're thinking about the location, and you're thinking about an action that basically sounds like what you're trying to remember. So Scarlett Johansson for scaphoid on a scaffold. Let's bring all of this together so that you can see how the value of this compounds over time. Let's say that you have come to understand something about the radial nerve in anatomy, and then you come across a Latin phrase that's used in the law, res ipsa loquitur, and that starts with R. It means the thing speaks for itself, and you realize that you have previously memorized this on the body of a celebrity like Ricky Gervais, the radial nerve. And then you go, res ipsa also starts with R, so Ricky Gervais would be perfect for this. And along his arm, you have maybe Ren with a razor for Riz, just to get that basic sound. And then he's doing something with Ip Man to get the res ipsa sound. And loquitur, I used licorice when I memorized this, but now you're placing it on this body. It's just a very small example, but this is the kind of thing that happens. The more you know, the more you can know. Doesn't replace the fact that you still have to go and write stuff down to challenge your memory. Doesn't replace the fact that you want to be skipping around and weaving. But what's great about using locations combined with these mnemonic associations, be it on your wrist or your arm or someone else's body, is that you can use that body to skip around, which is kind of like an interleaving effect. It's actually called serial positioning effect, where you're moving from, say, the arm to the wrist, down to the feet, up to the thoracic cavity, I guess, is around here. And then you're just moving around different celebrity bodies while you're studying anatomy. And then also you can take a break because you're just like, wait a second. I mean, this body part starts with C, and that reminds me of a Latin phrase that also starts with C. And you know what? It reminds me of something else in a different language I'm studying that starts with C. And you just are constantly now swimming in a kind of mental Disneyland of associations, and it is free dopamine spikes all day long. It's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful practice. Now, sometimes people say, well, how long is it going to take you to get there? And at the end of the day, well, you just got to start wherever you are, and I suggest putting aside the matter of time and think about the matter of momentum, how you're feeling, how much you're enjoying studying, even though it's difficult, even though the world is chaotic. And so use the link in the description to grab your access to my AIM AI, and I think it's going to really, really help you get to this point faster and faster where you love studying, and you're able to get more out of the time that you spend studying. And then come back here, and if you're interested more in location-based mnemonics, where you use things like the Memory Palace, well, watch my tutorial on the Memory Palace technique for studying next. It's going to help you conquer complex content, and this is my specialty. And it's a very powerful way for you to keep yourself magnetic. That's what I always like to say at the end of these videos. Thank you so much for joining me. This is Dr. Anthony Metivier, and until we have a chance to speak again, I do hope you will engage in these activities, and they will indeed help you keep yourself very, very magnetic, which means you'll be able to recall what you learned and love the process by which you got it there, no matter how chaotic the world might be.